Hello, hi, everyone. My name is Tony Onazi Oche, and I am a doctoral candidate in the Department of Political Science, University of Pretoria. I'm very elated to be part of this year's International Conference for Sustainable Development. And today I shall be presenting a paper on Seychelles, a paper analyzing Seychelles Blue Economy Finance Model. Just to give a little context to the focus of the paper, which is Seychelles. Seychelles is an island nation in East Africa. It is surrounded by about 115 islands. So as you would imagine, the existence of the Seychelles state, it's significantly relies on the resources from the ocean. Also, its GDP relies on ocean resources. Before I continue with the paper presentation proper, I think it is important for us to look at some important terms. For example, the human-centered design is very significant to understanding the arguments in this paper. And according to Giacomin, human-centered design is an approach to systems design and development that aims to build interactive systems that focus on the user and the focus on user's experience and the usability and knowledge around the solution. Meanwhile, another term that is also very important in understanding the argument in this paper is the nature-centric ecological security. This is a paradigm of ecological security that argues that that ecological security is concerned with maintaining the association among organisms at the micro and macro level in the ecosystem. In contrast, the human-centric ecological security argues that in addressing ecological security, the human agency should be taken into consideration, and that in as much as humans can act as spoilers, they can as well contribute to the sustainability of the environment. Another concept to look at is the debt for nature swap, which involves the forgiving of a portion of a country's sovereign debt in exchange of conservation commitments. In the context of this paper, which focuses on Seychelles, the debt for nature swap here is a debt for nature swap for ocean conservation. Another term that is closely related to debt for nature swap, but yet different, is the blue bond. A blue bond is just like every other bond, but just that it is a debt security that is issued to raise capital, specifically to finance the implementation of SDG 14. Having defined that, I think it's also important to trace the historical trajectory of Seychelles' blue economic model. Seychelles' blue economic model is fractured into two independent but interwoven intervention. And the first is the debt for nature swap model, which is an agreement that was reached in 2015 between the Seychelles government, the Nature Consultancy, and the Paris Club. And the deal is simple. The deal is simply to help Seychelles swap its loan, its Paris Club loan, which amounted to the sum of 21.6 million US dollars. And in 2015, the legislation was passed, which is called the CICAT Act of 2015. And it was aimed at establishing the Seychelles Conservation and Climate Adaptation Trust, which is saddled with the responsibility of repaying the loan of the Paris Club and also regenerating the loan from the Seychelles government to pay back to the TNC at the agreed dates. So this is just a diagram to explain the flow of finances in the swap for nature deal. The investors first they released the money to the CICAT, and the CICAT now loaned the money to the Seychelles government, and the Seychelles government, as part of the agreement, paid about 20.2 million US dollars loan to the Paris Club. The loan was to offset the 21.6 million dollar debt, debt, but however, it was paid at a 6.5% discount. Then, sequent to the nature of the debt for nature swap deal was the blue bond, which was issued in 2018. In 2018, Seychelles made history as the first country in the world to issue a blue bond. The blue bond realized about 15 million US dollars. Proceeds from the bond was to finance the expansion of marine protected areas and to bolster the governance of priority fisheries and the development of Seychelles' blue economy. And in addition, Seychelles also has the commitment to preserve 30% of its exclusive economic zone as a marine protected area. So, in some sort of breakdown of the blue bond, we also had the support from the World Bank, which was the 5 million guarantee in order to support the blue bond and program, and also the Global Environment Facility also contributed 5 million concessional loan to offset interest payments. So generally, that is the Seychelles blue bond. And part of the money, 20% of the money, was allotted to SICAT. And SICAT is embodied with the responsibility of repaying back the loan and also funding blue economy projects. So now, having said all this, one may want to question if this is a new study. However, there are a plethora of publication on Seychelles blue economic model. However, there's a gap in the literature in terms of analyzing the human-centered approach that the Seychelles has adopted. And also, there is a limited literature on the link between the new ICMA blue bond regulation and the Seychelles implementation of the blue bond. And another question would be, are there new trends to look out for, or are there new trends that are on the burner? And of course, we've seen over the years, we've seen increasing numbers of issued blue bonds. And also, we've seen the publication of the new ICMA blue bond framework, blue bond regulation, which was issued in September 2023. And also, we've seen more literature on the blue bond because it has emerged as an innovative approach to financing the blue economy, which is the least funded sustainable development goal. So if you look at the ICMA blue bond guidelines, you can see that so many of the guidelines in that very document are aligned with the practices or are aligned with Seychelles blue economy framework and some of the practices that have been adopted already by the government of Seychelles. So as a result, we're using this as a yardstick to argue that the Seychelles blue economic framework has really influenced the ICMA rules. And also, the paper is arguing that following the content and the outcome and the framework of existing SICAT projects, that the blue economic framework of Seychelles seems to be very collaborative. It seems to be inclusive of researchers, civil society organizations, and fishermen. And also some projects like the voluntary fisheries zone closure on the Praslin Island, show that the Seychelles blue economic framework is collaborative, it's iterative, and it takes into consideration the agency of the human person. And this boils down to the two major arguments of the paper. One is that the Seychelles blue bond utilizes both an ecological and human-centered approach in executing its blue finance framework. The second argument is that Seychelles blue economic financing model has influenced what we now know as the ICMA blue bond regulation. So we think that these contributions are very important to note, and that informs this paper in the first place. But be that as it may, there are several challenges that policymakers in countries will have to look at before adopting or issuing before issuing a blue bond. And one is the competing interest between green and blue bond. A country that relies heavily on fossil fuel and oil exploration may seem to be blue washing when if they claim to want to issue blue bond. So as a matter of fact, there's a conflicting interest between the green bond, the green philosophy and the blue philosophy. And also realities in many countries may be different from Seychelles. Seychelles is more like an ocean country. It has a lot of island, and it is very beneficial for it to develop its marine resources. This may not be the same case. This may not be the case with some other countries that just have patches of littoral communities. And lastly, the debt for nature swap and the blue bond are still some sort of loan. In as much as the debt for nature swap is more like a loan relief, it does not really discharge the liability of the debtor. So as a matter of fact, corrupt countries or countries that have fragile blue economic framework may find it very challenging to implement the blue bond and the kind of blue finance framework that Seychelles has adopted. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, the organizers have my email. You can forward the question, and I will be happy to reply to your emails. And also, you should look forward to reading the paper to gain deeper insight into the arguments herein. Thank you.